The Minnesota Vikings have selected Randy Moss.
But before I get questions, man, I'd like to say something. Everybody, one clap.
All right, Josh, one clap indeed. So here we are. This is the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I got myself here along with my partner in crime, Josh, and we're gonna do a little podcast for you here, mainly talking about football. But first of all, we should probably introduce ourselves for anyone who doesn't know who we are. So I'll give the floor over to my good friend Josh here to tell us a little bit about himself.
Yeah, my name is Josh, Hidden Oaks original. So we're going to talk a little bit about some football here.
Josh, you're going to need to speak up here, bud. Come on.
Well, it's my first time on the radio, Garlic, so you
act like you've been here before. Come
on. So as Garlic said, we're from Hidden Oaks. We're going to talk about some football today. I forgot some of the notes already.
No, you just tell us about yourself, Josh. You're introducing yourself. To who is Josh Mitchell?
Josh Mitchell is a hardcore Green Bay Packers fan, lover of fantasy football, 3 years in dynasty football, and we're gonna try and provide some input on some players, some rookies, some young guys. Hopefully you guys take a listen, and like it a little bit, provide some feedback in comment sections wherever this may get posted. Thank you.
Yeah, you can also always email in. We're the Hidden Oaks Overdose at gmail.com. So that's, again, Hidden Oaks Overdose at gmail.com. If you ever want to email into the show, we might feature you if you said something cool or funny or mean or whatever. So, Josh, I'm really interested in how you got into football. I know you played in high school. I don't know how young you started, but kind of tell us why you like football.
Well, it's a little bit louder.
Well, I know, because you're looking at your mic now, Josh. You're fucking with me a lot. Be consistent. Either look at me or look at your mic.
All right. Got into football young age. Obviously, most kids first, second grade start playing. I quit in fourth grade because I didn't like getting hit. Enough bullies in the neighborhood to make it so I hated getting hit. Started playing again in middle school, high school. Took 6 years off. Played in college. As a walk-on for Division III. Pretty easy to do that because they accept everyone. Reason behind my fierce devotion to the Green Bay Packers as a Minnesota native is the first game that I happened to watch just so happened to be Brett Favre after his father passed.
Oh,
not sure if you remember, but
great game.
4 touchdowns, 300 plus yards against the Raiders.
Dude.
Yeah. So been a devoted fan ever since then, which is why I'm going to be a little biased at times, even though I'm going to try not to be.
All right. So yeah, just want to make a note that Raiders game. Oh my God, Josh! After Favre's passing, such a great game. Very emotional. I still watch the highlights on YouTube sometime when I'm trying to go to bed. It's amazing. But so anyways, I'll take a sec here to introduce myself. Garlic, for anyone who doesn't know. Hidden Oaks, born and raised my whole life. Diehard Vikings fan. I'd like to think I bleed purple, but at the same time, I'm not afraid to be critical of the team. So you'll probably hear me tear the Vikings apart a lot, but just know I love them. I was never really into football as a kid. Up until, honestly, I really didn't get into football at all as a sport until Brett Favre was here in Minnesota. Kind of 2009 is when I became a real football fan, I like to think. I was up late at night in my mom's apartment, and I was watching the Favre against San Francisco game when he comes back and throws the touchdown in the back of the end zone to Greg Lewis. I remember just a great feeling of euphoria in that moment, and I've been hooked on this dumb shit ever since. So yeah, I'm also a big fan of fantasy football. I'm kind of known as the fantasy fanatic in my group of friends. I'm in 9 leagues this year. It might be more if I tack on a free league or 2. But yeah, 9 fantasy football leagues. It almost becomes not fun at that point, but I love the game too much. So now that we've talked about ourselves a little bit, Josh, let's kind of talk about where this podcast came from. So our partnership here has always been kind of, you're a great ideas guy, and then if I like the idea, I'll execute and I'll make it happen. But where'd this idea come from? What inspired you to want to do a podcast?
Well, if I'm going to be honest, and I apologize to all our friends who are listening, it's because our friends are awful at off season. We have a hard time keeping our dynasty league together in this off season.
Josh, you're gonna need to speak up, bud. You can see yourself. Come on.
I know.
Yeah, we just can't have dead air here, Josh. I mean, you ever listen to a podcast with a bunch of awkward silences? I'm not going to cut that out either. I saw you take a note. We're not cutting out your dead silence. Anyway, so where'd this podcast come from?
Honestly, I'm in a league that had a podcast last year. There's a lot of involvement. Started some trash talking. I thought it would be fun to get our leagues involved, and it just kind of branched from there. For all of those who are not in our league listening to this, I apologize because it may have a little bit more focus on the Hidden Oaks, but we are going to try and intermingle a lot of NFL news and keep it relevant to today's day and age as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, Hidden Oaks was the name of our neighborhood growing up. So that's kind of where that comes from. A lot of us are still friends to this day. We all grew up together, went to the same schools, obviously, being from the same neighborhood. And we've really taken on the Hidden Oaks identity kind of as our group of friends. We're really proud of it, and we really like kind of our upbringing and how that all worked out for us. So that's where the Hidden Oaks piece comes from. So Josh, what is our goal for today? Kind of break down what we're going to be talking about in this first podcast here.
Yeah, we're going to go over some of the Packers-Vikings preseason games so far. Obviously, we both have a little bit of a bias towards both those teams. Maybe cover a little bit of some of the other teams that have been playing, some of the rules in the NFL that have changed this offseason. Then we're going to delve into a little bit more fantasy specifics, discuss our dynasty league, some of the rookie draft that we just went through, free agency, as well as Antonio Brown, Teddy Bridgewater, and Randy Moss.
Yep. Shout outs to Nikita Bunker, who might have amended our
Nikita
notes
Mitchell.
Here. Nikita Mitchell. I'm still going to call her Nikita Bunker, but Nikita Mitchell, Josh's wife, edited our notes list at the last minute here before we went live. All right, so Josh, let's get right into it. You said one of our goals was to talk about our teams. You're a diehard Packers fan. Let's hear all about the Pack. Probably start with their off-season moves. I know there's been a lot of coaching changes, and then maybe some new personnel on the field.
Yeah, obviously last season didn't go as planned. When Aaron Rodgers goes down, the entire city goes into a panic. But it did expose a lot of the weak points that we needed to get corrected. So our defense was one of the main focuses of this offseason. I feel address that in the draft with the first two draft picks of
You know what, Josh? You're doing great here. Let's give a little. Oh, why is that so quiet? Oh, the mixer's way down. That makes me sad. All right, we'll try that one more time. All right, Josh, this is how you're doing.
I was checking the specs on the end line for the rotary girder. I'm retarded.
So we're gonna try and incorporate a soundboard here whenever we can, just for some quick laughs. Anyways, Josh, you were saying Green Bay Packers?
Jair Alexander was our first round draft pick. Pretty happy with what I've seen with him in preseason so far, despite its first 2 weeks, so it's pretty limited. Second round, Josh Jackson. He's picking up everything in camp from what I hear. Doing well. He can play all over the field. He was actually projected as a first round draft pick, and I saw a lot of mocks with Packers taking him at 14. If Packers didn't take him, then the Vikings at wherever they drafted,
So yeah, something high, 30, 29.
Late first round. So the fact that he dropped to the Pack in the second round, I was extremely happy. I remember watching that pick in the kitchen and actually doing a lap around our island. It's a small island, but I'm not in the best shape, so I got winded after one.
That's all it takes sometimes, you know?
But yeah, with this most recent preseason game, week 2 against the Steelers, first play from scrimmage was a pick 6 from Tramon Williams. Welcome back. He was one of the kind of staples in the defense a few years back. He brought it back. It was a nice play. From there, it was that opened the dams. And when you open it up on the first play of the game, you're going to end up with a high score. So Packers 51, Pitt 34. Had a few rookies. Jake Kumaro, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equinemius St. Brown. They all had, some contribution. Jake Kumaro, 3 catches, 114 and a tutter. Marquise, 1 catch, 15 yards. He had the big week last week, though. Quinamius St. Brown, 1 catch, 5 targets, 12 yards. So I don't know if it was a little bit of accuracy. He did have Kaiser and Hunley thrown to him for the most part.
Ish.
So 2 of the worst ranked quarterbacks according to PFF. Actually, they were the bottom 2 for quarterbacks that started last season, and yet Green Bay got them.
Come on, Green Bay.
Yeah. Run game, I don't think anything got started. 41 yards out of Joel Buganon on 13 carries. Jamal Williams had 2 carries, 2 yards. Akeem Judd, 5 carries, 3 yards. Ty Mont, 4 carries, 10 yards. It was kind of ugly overall in the run game, but 51 points, can't complain. Back to Josh Jackson, that second-round draft pick. He had a pick 6. That was beautiful. Nice to see. He said that he had actually known which play was coming beforehand, so it was easy to jump that route. On the Pittsburgh side, a little bit rough, obviously, but they still put up 34. James Conner, a little bit of dynasty value for those of you who are listening for the dynasty side of things. He's sitting behind someone named Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah. But he had 5 carries, 57 yards, and a tutter. He'd definitely be worth a stash in most leagues, especially with Bell being in its contract year here. If he doesn't stick around, Connor's going to be a stud. So that's what I have for Green Bay this week. Obviously, there's a lot more. It's a little bit difficult without diving into the weeds too much. I do have a full-time job as a county employee, so...
Is that really a job?
Kinda.
You get paid, for sure.
So we will not necessarily dive into preseason a whole lot, despite a lot of those who are into Dynasty and a lot of people who are interested in some of those kind of bubble players. But Garlic, what about the Vikings? How'd they go with their preseason so far?
Well, I mean, I can tell you exactly how Kirk Cousins was feeling after game 1.
Well, Dak, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
So, I mean, 4 for 4, like 40-some yards, like 41 yards and a tutter. I mean, Kirk Cousins marched right down that field, and the Broncos were looking like little bitches. So he was feeling great. Preseason game 2, Kirk Cousins did not look so great. I don't even remember who scored our first touchdown, but Kirk Cousins was looking a little rough against the Jags D. I understand they're either the number 1 or the number 2 defense in the league, so that's tough to perform well against, but he looked pretty pedestrian out there from everything I saw. So yeah, Kirk Cousins was feeling good. I would like to note that our defensive 2s have looked really good so far. I know both Case Keenum and the Bronco ones and Blake Bortles and the Jags ones stayed out on the field a lot longer than our defensive starters did for the Vikings, and we held them pretty good. So shout out to all the depth there in Minnesota. Our defensive 2s are looking great. If we can stop number 1 offenses, well, I shouldn't say number 1 offenses. I don't think there's anything special about the Broncos offense, and Leonard Fournette's probably the only good player on the Jags offense, but I have a hard-on for Blake Bortles, so he's the boat. I love him so much. Big fan of Blake Bortles as a person. I don't know about him as a skilled football player. He certainly looked great in the AFC Championship game against the Pats. Josh, I don't know if you watched that game, but Blake Bortles actually looked really good in that game.
I did. There's an argument that they should have won that game, but a bad call got it taken away. Just kind of goes to show that the Patriots are America's team.
Yeah, no doubt. Don't tell Jared Jones that, though. He'll be quite upset. So back to the Vikings, though. Our defensive 2s have looked great. Kirk Cousins looked good game 1. He did not look anything special in game 2. Game 1, Trevor Siemian looked pretty rough, in my opinion. I really didn't pay attention to anything Trevor Siemian did. Game 2, obviously, if anyone's a Vikings fan, a big thing we're talking about right now is our backup running backs who aren't named Latavius Murray, Rock Thomas, and some first name Boone. Mike Boone. Josh took notes. I didn't. They have looked fantastic, both of them. Rock Thomas took like a 78-yard screen all the way to the house. Well, obviously the screen pass wasn't 78 yards, but he took the screen pass 78 yards to the house. He looked great game 1. I didn't pay that much attention to game 2, but Boone looked good from the plays I saw, and yeah.
Mike Boone is actually the one who scored your only touchdown in week 2. He had 13 carries, 91 yards, and a reception for 1. He took in a run of, I believe, 1 yard for a touchdown.
Ooh, 1 whole yard, huh?
Yep.
Nice. So back to Minnesota again. Our kicking competition, how it's been working in preseason so far, at least for game 1, I thought it was really weird. It was Daniel Carlson was restricted to just kickoff duty, whereas Kai Forbath was only kicking field goals, I believe. It was something like that. I thought that's a really weird way to have your kicking competition. Doesn't make much sense to me. Why wouldn't you split them on field goal attempts? But anyways, I don't know if that's what they did for game 2 or not, but I do know I watched Kai Forbath's career end in game 2 of the preseason today. I don't know what the yardage was on the kick, but Kai Forbath hit it right off that goal post, and they probably won't cut him right away because they'll probably keep him in camp to keep Carlson looking good and keep him sharp. But I think Forbath's days are done after that miss today. The pressure's on, and you're not going to draft a kicker in the first round, and not keep him on the team is my belief.
Fifth round,
whatever. So yeah, Mike Hughes has looked pretty average in the first 2 preseason games I've saw. In the first game, he had some debatable coverage decisions that he made, and then in game 2, at least on one of the plays, he just flat out slipped, and it could have been an easy touchdown for the Jags if the quarterback was any good. So yeah, that's all I really have. I don't know much about the depth in Minnesota. I know a lot about the starters, but I couldn't really name a lot of the twos. Like the defensive twos look good, but I probably couldn't name most of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, they definitely gave it away here today. We do have a call from a fan, well, not a fan of the Vikings, but just a general fan of football.
What does this fan have to say, Josh?
Yeah, okay, well, the Vikings are terrible.
Yep, nope, sorry. I got a little provocative, so we're gonna cut him off right there.
Ooh.
Yeah. But yeah,
who was that?
I believe his name is Carol. Carol Gerby.
Okay.
And so we're just gonna move on unless you have anything else to add about the Vikings and their preseason so far.
Not really. So this will kind of transition into the next thing we want to talk about. In game 2 of the Vikings preseason, Daniel Carlson made a really interesting decision with his kickoff. I don't know if he made it or Prefer made it, but so with the new kickoff rules, we'll talk about them in a second. But basically what Daniels did, Josh, as you can see, he kicked it to like right here. If this is the end zone, he like purposely kicked it short and high. And I don't know if you'd call him a gunner or whatever, but one of our guys almost recovered it, kind of like in this dead zone now, since there's only 3 guys back here and 8 of them have to be up on the line. So I don't know if that was a strategic decision, trying to get a new type of onside kick if we got some pretty fast gunners there. But what do you feel about the new kickoff rules this year?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be an interesting change. They're obviously doing a lot for player safety. With the new, for those of you who don't know, the kickoff, they're no longer allowed to run up the line. They have to be set before and then take off. There's also on the return team, there's supposed to be 8 people within, I believe, 10 yards of the ball, or 10 yards something, and so it's going to shift a lot of the focus on larger bodies, linebackers, the defensive, the bigger guys, and those that can get out there and block, to the quicker guys who can get back to block. And so there's going to be a little bit of a change on kind of strategy on getting those guys on the field. And there's also a change where there's no longer wedge blocks allowed. which it may not seem like a big deal, but it does rely on a lot more one-on-one blocking. So you can't have two guys take on one to kind of form a lane when guys are running down the field. So the skill players are going to be key on this just because they're going to have that speed to get back. There are going to be linebackers and safeties and corners that can do that, but a lot of times there's going to be corners are going to be smaller bodied guys. So they're not going to do that. As far as how this impacts teams, it's kind of yet to be seen, but I can imagine a lot of the bigger guys, defensive and offensive linemen, those who may have been fast enough to be on the regular kickoff team or the kickoff return team, they're not going to be kept as deep on rosters. And so you may see a lot more guys you don't expect to make the team, like Rock Carlson or Mike Boone, whatever their names are, sticking around just because they
Rock
do
Thomas,
provide.
come on.
Whatever. He's a Viking. Just because they do provide that speed and that athleticism to get back and help block, maybe get downfield to make a tackle. So that might be where a lot of those guys make that roster spot.
Sure. So Josh, I know we had talked about this pre-show. I don't know if you actually talked about it though on the pod so far. My memory isn't great. Have you talked about all the coaching changes in Green Bay?
Not a whole lot. I know somebody, Dom Capers, who is known for the best first and second run defense in the NFL, but also known as the guy who tells his team to blindfold on third down. He is no longer in Green Bay, and he's replaced by
They've done
Mike.
studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
I think there's something to that blindfold, Josh.
Well, when he came to Green Bay in 2009, he was actually, my computer turned off. He had the third best defense, and then I think that the year 2010, I don't know what happened with Green Bay that year. Do you remember?
No, sorry, I coughed there. But no, I have no idea.
Oh, there's a Super Bowl, and they made it to that, and they ended up beating Pittsburgh in that, and they had a top 15, top 12 defense that year. And then the following year, they had another top defense. So he came to Green Bay, and he had great ideas, but the thing is he never changed his ideas. He never adapted to the league. As we know, the league is always evolving. And so his 1980s, 1990s type defense wasn't working anymore in the 2010s, and so out with the old and with the new. And Mike Pettin, he got a bad rep just because he was in Cleveland before, head coach there, kind of struggled. He was in there when Johnny Manziel was around. I don't know if you guys remember Johnny Manziel, but well, there's crickets in my basement, so you could probably, if the mics were loud enough to pick that up, you'd hear the crickets, and that kind of sums up his career.
How dare you? He's having a great career in Canada, I think.
Well, I don't know. This last week, he actually got knocked out with a concussion, convulsing on the ground. So he's concussion protocol in Canada, and he's in Canada, so he loses. Sunnyvale Trailer Park's the only reason to visit there. Yeah, other than that, there's a few other minor coaching changes. The Beeve is still around, and that's Mike McCarthy, for those of you who are unaware of his nickname.
The Beeve.
We also have Phil Binnen as offensive coordinator, I guess, which is going to be nice because he was in Green Bay as well during that Super Bowl run or the year before when they were running a lot of 5 wideout sets. I don't think we don't have the depth right now. Green Bay has Devontae Adams, who's by far one of the most underrated wideouts in the NFL. I feel he's great.
Yeah, I mean, he is pretty great. He's not as good as this guy, though.
I told you and I told you. Touchdown.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say he's as good as Randy Moss. I mean, I've argued with people that he's top 5 right now, but being honest, he's probably top 10. But that's great because he's still young. He's good. He's quick. He's picking things up. He had struggles early on with drops, but he's doing better now. Cobb's getting a little older. He has an ankle injury that's just nagging him, it seems. So hopefully he can get over that. But then we have a lot of youth with Geronimo Allison, Jamon Moore, St. Brown, and then Marquise Von Scantling. I can't talk tonight.
That's all right. You've probably had one too many alcoholic beverages.
3 too many. And so we've got some youth, and I've liked what we've seen of the youth, and there's always options in free agency since it does seem Goody he has done a lot in free agency, and we have Jimmy Graham as the ball catcher this season. He had a great play in the week 2 preseason game where it was just an 8-yard play, but there's no chance a defender's going to be able to box him out at his size.
Sure. Yeah, so a lot of turnover there in Green Bay for the coaching positions. Hopefully it's for the best. I don't know how I feel about Mike McCarthy. Like we talked about, when he's good, but when he's bad, it's pretty atrocious. So he's kind of been riding Aaron Rodgers' coattails for quite some time, in my opinion. But the guy's got a Super Bowl ring. The whole Vikings organization can't even say that. So he's got to be doing something right over there in Green Bay. So I was looking through my notes here. I do have like 2 last notes on the Vikings so far this year, specifically in preseason game 2. Mackenzie Alexander, Blake Bortles hit him literally right in the chest, right in the numbers, and Mackenzie Alexander could not secure that pick, which was a little disappointing. I mean, he bobbled it up, which is a good defensive move. If you can't catch it yourself, give someone else an opportunity. But then Anthony Barr whiffed it too. So try and get better hands. I know that's why you guys play defense. But then also Latavius Murray, that guy coughed up the ball twice. And it's not like he got rocked. It's not like he broke his leg like Dalvin Cook last year when he fumbled. It was just both fumbles I'd say were pretty ugly and probably could have been prevented. But that was my last 2 notes I want to throw out there. Yeah, Josh, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about the pack or, we still want to talk about new rules. So we talked about the kickoff rules, but I know you were kind of not feeling so hot about the new quarterback protection rules. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm going to try not to throw up all over my screen when I talk about it because just one of the highlights and the reason that I brought it up was during the Vikings-Jaguars game, there seemed to be a clean sack on the Jaguars, that the Vikings sacked the Jaguars, and it was a very clean tackle from what I had seen, but they flagged it as a roughing the passer call, and if that's the direction that the NFL is going, it is going to be two-hand touch in a few years just because they're cracking down on it. So hopefully they get it squared away before the regular season, and hopefully this is just because it is preseason and they are trying to, make people think a little bit more about it during the regular season. Even that's a little bit wrong because you don't want, these guys are running at top speed and they're high-end athletes. They're going to act on instinct before they think about things, and if they start thinking about things, it's going to slow down their game and the quality is going to be a lot lower. But at the same time, player safety is going to be important. I do have something to add, though, regarding just in general. Oh, never mind. It got taken away. There was a play on here that said Joe Webb passed Vincent Smith for 41-yard touchdown. So Joe Webb sighting, everybody. Dude,
Joe Webb, big fan of the Joe Webb. I got made fun of in a Vikings Discord when we were doing the Reddit Survivor. I identified myself as a Joe Webb fan, and I got all made fun of in the Discord. It hurt my feelings a little bit.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, but who won NFL Survivor this year, Josh? It wasn't the Pack.
They won it last year, so who cares? But yeah, moving on. We're going to get into a little bit more of the Hidden Oaks fantasy specifics, and since the redraft league the draft date is set for, I believe, September something or another.
September 3rd. Come on, Josh. Labor Day,
September 3rd at 6 o'clock.
6:45.
Mountain time.
Hey, Mountain time? What is happening right now?
I don't know.
Okay.
6 o'clock, 6:45 Central Time at the Dubs in Blaine. So we're gonna skip over that a little bit, but we are gonna talk a little bit about our Dynasty League and some of the things that have been going on with that. For you guys who are not in our Dynasty League, there's gonna be a little bit of talk about our draft, so you can laugh at some of the draft picks that we made. As we stated earlier, and if we didn't state it earlier, we aren't experts. We are just here to have fun. So the depth that we do in our research is about the same as the depth of the kiddie pool at the local water park, and that's very deep compared to some, I'm sure. We do have some manager changes in this offseason, and
before we get into the manager changes, let's talk history of the league, kind of where it came from, how many years it's been going, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we've been around we're entering our 3rd year now, and year one, you're kind of like I said, we were just kind of joining in. I explained the kind of the process, the kind of the expectations of the league and what to expect in it, and everybody that we knew hopped on board. And we had 3 out-of-towners that joined in from a friend of ours and mutual friends. We met them; they were nice. They joined in and drafted, had a good first year. Very little conversation. Everybody was just kind of trying to get a feel of the league itself. A few trades, some draft pick trades, but not a whole lot of action. We actually had somebody trade Le'Veon Bell for Jordy Nelson straight up. You'd think that the one with the Le'Veon Bell would be the victor there, but the one who traded for Jordy ended up winning the championship. Good job, Jordan. So Jordan then went from he had got first the first year, and Garlic here got last.
Well, let's just be clear here. In this Dynasty League, it was kind of rushed. We put it together last minute before the NFL season, and I had to auto-draft my 30-person Dynasty team, okay? My Dynasty team got auto-drafted. I'm sorry, I was worst in the league, Josh. Please. Come on.
All I hear is excuses.
Yeah, well, I won last year, Josh. I went from worst to first, so obviously I figured it out.
Yep, and I don't know which demon you had to make a deal with, but Jordan went from first to worst. So we've kind of had a little bit of a jumble around, and I'm gonna admit I'm extremely bitter with our Dynasty League when I look at my roster, because there is no chance that I shouldn't be losing. I have the best roster in this league.
Clearly you don't. Josh, give us some of your players on this Dynasty team. Why is your team so good?
Well, hang on. Let me just pull up my roster here real quick, and I'll try not to roster bait too hard for you guys.
Oh my God, I don't want to see your vinegar strokes here, Josh. That's disgusting.
But we got Drew Brees.
Who?
Yeah, David Johnson, Elvin Kamara, Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams, Chris Hogan, and Anthony, well, we'll get into that a little bit later. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Hunter Henry is supposed to be my starter. But then I got Deshaun Watson, Lamar Miller, Ty Montgomery. It's just Corey Davis, Robert Woods, Keelan Cole, Cam Meredith. Just goes on and on. I have depth. I've got starters. I've got a boner right now.
You came in, what, 7th last year?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I was the champion last year. We're talking Tom Brady, Todd Gurley, Jay Ajayi, Keenan Allen, Larry Fitz, Roby Anderson, Zach Ertz, Jordan Reed. Daniel Carlson was not my kicker last year, but the Jags D definitely carried me. Yeah, I mean, your team sounds good, but obviously they can't get it done. So you can be butthurt all you want, Josh, but yeah. So we kind of cut off the history of the league there. Pretty much to recap, it's a 3-year-old league. We started on ESPN, went to Flea Flicker, and now we're on the Sleeper app, which if anyone has never used the Sleeper app, I'd recommend checking it out. It's actually pretty cool. So, I mean, yeah, talk about the Dynasty League, Josh. I was cut you off when you're talking about manager changes. Let's hear about that.
Yeah, no, so after the year 2, when Jordan went from first to worst, I don't know if he just had a lack of or change of heart on things. He had a lot going on with his life. He was down in Guantanamo Bay. Not as an inmate, by the way. He was working for the military there.
Allegedly. So, I mean, I never saw it. We don't know for sure what he was doing down there.
Yeah, and so he left. He had a lot of things going on when he came back, so good for him on that.
Keep going. You're fine.
And so we had Kevin Brown join, friend of Jesse's. And Jesse, actually, he's now gone for the Air Force stuff, and we have Andrew Hammer taking over for him for just this season. We had some out-of-towners who left, Nick and Ryan. Wish them the best of luck in whatever they do. Nick, for all I know, you could be dead.
Nick
Haven't heard from you in a long time. Ryan, I understand life got busy for you. That's great. Wish you the best of luck. To replace them, we got T, Garlic's cousin, taking over for Nick. He's a greasy fuck, but he's he's trying to steal my dog, so I wouldn't say he's a good guy. Got Kyle, who took over for Ryan, So Kyle, I don't know if it's going to be interim or permanent, but welcome to the crew. As soon as you join up, you just have to join on Sleeper.
Yeah, he's kind
Join on Sleeper.
All right, that was unnecessary. Look at that. You see how awful that is? That's going to be in people's ear. Look at that. Ugh. Sorry, I was pointing at the sound waves for Josh. He just raped you in the ear a little bit. I apologize for that.
And then going back to Kevin joining and taking over for Jordan, I just got to commend him for being an excellent human being, because if I would have seen that roster, I would have laughed and thrown it in the garbage. That's kind of where his team is right now. I don't remember the exact count, but I believe he has 9 guys on his roster who are no longer even in the NFL. And so that's just something that happens when a manager isn't paying as much attention. Well, and he does have a decent excuse, being that he was kind of in Guantanamo there. But yeah, that's going to be the manager changes that we had from year 2 to year 3. Hopefully we don't have any from year 3 to year 4, other than those that have left for the interim to be returning. And then possibly, well, that'll be it.
Yeah. So overall, our league's pretty cool. I'm the champion, so obviously I'm the coolest one in the league. I haven't given a shout out yet to my co-owner, Mr. Garrett Flint. Big fan of his. I think I brought him in on season 2 when we moved to Flea Flicker. So Garrett and I built that team together, and we are now the reigning, defending, undisputed champions of Hidden Oaks, and there's nothing you can do about it, Josh. You can suck it. So now we've talked about some league owner changes. Do you want to talk about the draft a little bit?
Yeah, we'll dive into that a little bit. I've got just the first 20 draft picks written down, and I think I see the draft board up on your screen there, so
Yes,
we
sir.
can go into a little bit of depth on it. I've mentioned it once or twice already that there's really not a whole lot of research on these guys before. Number 1 overall, Saquon Barkley, kind of the clear-cut number 1 overall in a lot of leagues, unless you have the first and second overall pick and you were just being funny to draft him second overall. But Saquon went number 1 in our league to Ryan before he left, and so that's, we won't dive into that a whole lot, but it's kind of obvious as to why he picked him. He's kind of a generational talent, they're saying. We hope. And even though he's on the Giants and Eli Manning is a mouth-breathing idiot, I do hope Saquon does well there. He's fun to watch. He's got a lot of talent. Number 2, Sony Michel. He went to the Patriots. He's going to be in that carousel of running backs with Rex Burkhead, James White, Mike Gillislee. And so they were saying that he's going to actually kind of be that guy in New England, but he went down recently with an injury that might set him back a little bit, but it sounds like so are the other guys. James White might be kind of the guy to go to, the guy to own in New England, but for the most part, Sony Michel is going to be the future there. So at number 2, I have no issue with that, especially in a full point PPR. He's going to be good at catching the ball out of the backfield. That was Kevin who picked him, by the way, so good job, Kevin. Willie, 3rd overall pick, Darius Geis.
Juice.
Going into the draft, going into the off season here, he's kind of in the talks for number 2, especially in those like 0.5 standard leagues. In Washington, the Redskins, they're not necessarily a decent running back system yet. They got Fat Rob and Samaje, but none of them kind of set themselves apart in this offseason. So Geis was going to go in and be the guy, and unfortunately he went down with an ACL tear. I believe first or second drive of his preseason there, so that's unfortunate. But for the future, he's definitely worth a hold. He was one of those guys that they said picked up the offense really quickly, which is always a good sign for running backs. Number 4, we got Hammer, Jesse, taking Penny. Got a lot of flack for being drafted so early in Seattle. He's a first-round draft pick, running back. They definitely had some offensive line needs, but he's a good get. He's a good back to own. They like what they have in Penny, but he unfortunately broke his finger, and he's going up against Chris Carson, who's doing well this preseason so far, and he actually set himself apart last year as well, even though he was a 7th round draft pick. And so he he's kind of a diamond in the rough they found with Chris Carson. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do when Penny comes back. If Chris Carson is still performing the way he is now, if they sit him or bring him in only on certain situations. If they do that, still worth a hold, especially in a deep league, in any dynasty league. And so not a bad pick at 4. He was also in that talk of a top 3 pick. Derek, Calvin Ridley. Haven't heard a whole lot from him this preseason. He's wideout, obviously. First wideout off the board, kind of around the spot that most people are having him taken. And so it'll be interesting to see what he does in that offense. I know he's going to fill in that role for, drawing a blank now, went to the Bears. Garlic, help me out.
Who? I'm sorry.
Taylor Gabriel. He's going to kind of fill that Taylor Gabriel role, from what I understand. He's a little bit bigger bodied too, if I remember correctly. So who knows where he ends up on that roster? Like I said, I haven't been paying too much attention at this point. T took Royce Freeman. Not sure if he did it for the player himself or for the name Royce to 5'9". He's a rapper, for those of you who don't know.
What's rap? I've never heard of this.
It's an alternative to bread.
Oh,
you put meats and stuff in it.
Delicious.
But yeah, Royce Freeman, Denver, not a bad pick there. Kind of standard area for him from what I've seen. Not sure what he's done in Denver so far. I haven't paid attention to any of their preseason games yet. So sorry, T. Don't have a whole lot of feedback for you.
Who picked next? Some douchebag.
Yeah, 7. That was Josh. That's me.
Ish.
I took Kerryon Johnson. Sure, Detroit's had a running back that's produced since Barry Sanders, but I feel like Kerryon's got that opportunity. He's a little bit of a hard runner. They tried the Amir Abdullah route, kind of a Nebraska bow-legged country boy who never really panned out, too many injuries. They got Theo Riddick, who's one of the best pass catcher running backs in the NFL right now. And so I don't see him taking a lot of the third down snaps, but he is going to be a 3-down back when he gets that opportunity. Excuse me. Jesse or Hammer traded this offseason for the 8th overall pick to Nate, or from Nate. So they got Nate's pick, and they took DJ Moore. DJ Moore, who's a wideout other than Devin Funchess in Carolina? Curtis Samuel.
What's that?
Phone away.
I'm not going to put my phone away. What was the question?
Who's the other wide receivers in Carolina right now?
I don't think they have any, if I'm being honest.
Devin Funchess, he was solid last year. Curtis Samuel, he's young. He's wideouts usually take 3 years to develop.
The only one I know of, he's not a wideout, but it's Greg Olsen, obviously the god.
The broadcaster?
Yeah, exactly. No, I have no idea.
So yeah, DJ Moore is going to be a nice overall. Nice pick at 8 there. I got him in another league, and I took him at 6, I believe. So I wouldn't be complaining about getting him at 8, especially in a PPR league. Connor took Nick Chubb at number 9. Kind of surprised he lasts that long. He was very highly touted coming out of college. He's going to be on Cleveland, though. And so he's going to be competing a lot with Franco.
How about Carlos Hyde?
Carlos Hyde, and there we go. Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson's never going to get off the field in 3. He's actually saying he wants to be a slot receiver, last I saw, so he might not. It'll be interesting to see what comes from that. And then guard, guard took Ronald Jones II, who's going to be the backup entering the season.
Rojo. Yeah, he's slated as the backup, but let's be honest here, Josh. Rojo's going to be that starter come week 4, week 5, once Peyton Barber's proved to be the sham that he is. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Draft Day. I hope you've seen it. I think we saw it together. You've never seen Draft Day?
Nope.
Oh my God. Draft Day, great movie. But anyways, sitting there at 10, the championship pick, obviously. Me and Garrett, my co-owner, we were kind of texting back and forth a lot that whole night. And we were I was kind of having a bit of a panic attack. I was like, all right, why is Rojo still on the board? Is there something I don't know about him? Did he get injured and it's not been reported widely and I just missed it? But so kind of coming into the draft, Garrett and I had decided that we wouldn't really plan anything at pick 10. It's kind of hard to know who's going to fall to you. We wanted a quarterback because while I do like our quarterbacks, coming into the draft, our quarterbacks were Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers. They're both great backs, both definitely getting up there in age, though.
Graybeards.
Gray beards indeed. Little Skyrim reference. But so yeah, we knew we wanted a quarterback, but we figured Rojo was probably a good pick at 10, and he definitely wouldn't make it to 20. So we were like, all right, we want a quarterback, but this quarterback class is kind of deep, so let's take Rojo and kind of see what falls to us at 20. So I don't think we should probably go through the other 40 picks like you have. I like the first breakdown of the first 10 at least. But what are some of the other notable picks here for you without going through all 40? Who do you like?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't write down all of them, but I will say that I'm extremely happy with my next 2 picks.
All right, let's hear it.
At 17 and 18 or the 17th and the 18th pick, I got Anthony Miller and Antonio Callaway.
How did you have the 18th pick, Josh? Let's talk about that for a second.
That was a golf bet.
Correct. You out golfed Nate.
Yeah.
Closest to the pin.
So I'm not sure what the etiquette is for trading draft picks, but Nate and I will usually go out onto a golf course, and if we get a par 3, we'll usually bet second round draft picks for the upcoming year, the next year, and I just happened to out golf him and get his second round draft pick. And don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I don't think he's ever won a draft pick off me doing that. So Nate, if you'd like your second round draft pick, don't golf with me anymore. And so I got Antonio Callaway with that pick, and that's a little bit early. I might have actually been able to wait till the next round to actually get him. But I liked his just overall kind of abilities, and so far this preseason he's proved it. And I know Hugh Jackson tried to make a point to say, I'm going to punish you by making you play the entire game, and I kind of laughed at that because, he's going to be tired. It's football. It's his job to go out there and play every day. He wants to prove that he can do it every day. He's a rookie. I mean, he's a 4th round rookie with 1st round talent, according to a lot of the scouts. And so going out there playing a full game and doing what he did, 100 plus yards and a touchdown, long touchdown too. It made me happy that I got him there at 18 and happy that I didn't wait. But Anthony Miller at 17, he's going to the Bears, which is going to be a crowded receiver room with Allen Robinson and Taylor Gabriel, but Kevin Glassman White. Anthony Miller,
interest, Kevin White.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anthony Miller is kind of slated as that number 2 guy already, and they're saying some of the highlights I've seen out of camp, he does not miss the ball. He can catch everything. They're saying his footwork is like Antonio Brown level, and his route running is in the similar level. So if Anthony Miller ends up being half of what Antonio Brown is, getting him at 17 was a steal.
Yep. So I think those are good picks for sure. We're gonna transition back to me here for a second. So I take Rojo at 10, and then Garrett are like, all right, we're getting this fucking quarterback. Hopefully someone would fall to us at 20. Lamar Jackson, who was kind of at the top of my list, he goes at 13 to Willie. I'm not really familiar with Willie's team, but I know Willie has Marcus Mariota. He probably didn't need Lamar Jackson, takes him anyways. Fast forward to pick 15. Derek takes Baker Mayfield, this son of a bitch. And then so Garrett was really big on Josh Rosen. I wanted Lamar Jackson. Lamar was already gone. Pick 16, 17, and 18. I'll go by no quarterbacks, all receivers. I was like, all right, we're going to get Josh Rosen, I guess. I didn't want him. I wanted Lamar Jackson, but let's take Josh Rosen. And then Connor, he's picking 19th overall. He came in 2nd last year. This motherfucker takes Josh Rosen. I remember I was looking at his team. I was looking at his quarterbacks. I was like, there's no way this guy is taking Josh Rosen. He doesn't need him. And then he takes Josh fucking Rosen. So then Garrett and I scramble. We're like, all right, there's no one else we want in this draft. This is stupid. Sam Darnold blows. Josh Allen is probably not the best or won't play for a while. So we took Minnesota's kicker, Daniel Carlson, 5th-round draft pick. Unbelievable, Josh. Couldn't get the
Yeah,
quarterback.
okay, well, the Vikings are terrible.
The Vikings are not terrible, Josh. Daniel Carlson is going to be Blair Walsh incarnate. So that means he's going to have a great rookie year, and then he'll disappoint me 3 or 4 years from now. But this year is going to be fucking great. Ugh. So yeah, I don't really have much else to talk about in the draft. So all my picks were Rojo, Daniel Carlson. I took Dallas Goedert, who's going to be backing up Zach Ertz this year. I thought that was a good pick. I took John Kelly. He's a rookie running back for the Rams. I just kind of hoping he might be 2 to Todd Gurley, since I've got Todd Gurley. If Todd Gurley ever goes down, I've got depth there. And then I wanted to take Justin Jackson with Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, who was the backup in the Chargers, or on the Chargers in LA. But Garrett took Mike White, the rookie quarterback in Dallas, and then we dropped him anyways. So, but yeah. Anything else you want to talk about from the draft here, Josh?
No, I've got nothing to add. Obviously, it was nice to do on Sleeper. They have a nice little draft board set up, so that was actually pretty fun to work with and get it set up. Garlic already mentioned it earlier. Check it out. Try it out. Definitely recommend it myself. Got our other Dynasty League to move platforms over to there, and we're about halfway through our Dynasty rookie draft on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think next we're going to move into some of the free agent pickups. And we're not going to focus a lot on the drops, because we had a lot of people who had to drop to make their roster cuts after the draft. And so we'll go into some of the kind of different signings that just between Gar and I right now. And if you're in our league and you wanted your player mentioned, I'm sorry. Just grow up. We're tired. It's 11 o'clock at night.
You're struggling here, Josh.
Yeah,
but I
it's
believe in
way
you.
past my bedtime.
No doubt.
And so just 2 of the names that I wrote down in my notes for my free agent picks up was Gesicki, and the tight end out of Miami, rookie tight end out of Miami. I was actually looking at him on my draft board in the 4th or 5th round, because I needed a tight end with Hunter Henry going down, not necessarily trusting.
I mean, that's not true. Nate drafted him at 36 or 38. 28, whatever the pick was.
I said 4th round, right? 4th and 5th round?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess. So that would have been after. What are you talking about? He's drafted right here. 4th and 5th rounds right there.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't draft him.
Oh.
I was going to get him in the 4th or 5th round, but Nate took him.
Ah, I see. So I'm the retard. All right, well, just give me a little of this.
I was checking the specs on the end line for the rotary girder. I'm retarded.
I don't think I'll ever not chuckle at that.
Nope. And so when I saw Nate drop them, I went out there and I picked him up pretty quick. And so I was happy to get him, especially with the tight ends that I have right now, Austin Safarian-Jenkins. He's kind of one of those guys who you expect to do well, but depending on what happens with him off the field, then you gotta have someone in the tank. And so hopefully Hunter Henry comes back next season and tears it up like he was this last year. But till then, Gesicki, he's going to sit there and bide his time. Other guy, I'm not sure if it was Willie or Derek. One of those Schultz brothers dropped Aaron Jones in Green Bay.
Yep, that was Derek.
Yeah, I went out and spent almost half my free budget on him. Not complaining. Turns out not many people bid on him anyways, so I probably could have got him for a lot cheaper.
I'm guessing no one bid on him but you, Josh.
Yep, and I have Ty Montgomery, and I understand Jamal Williams is another guy to own and get in Green Bay with their running back by committee, but I'm a firm believer in Ty moving back to the wide receiver position here in the future, and I know a lot of people say he's not, and even Ty says he's not, but I believe he will. And I just like what I saw out of Aaron last year. He's a great pure runner. He had a lot of big plays. Through his first 4 starts and Delvin Cook's first 4 starts, he actually matched him stats, and yet he's not being talked about like Delvin is, just because he's not that starting running back in Green Bay, and they do have somebody named Aaron Rodgers throwing the football.
Who?
Yep. But yeah, let's go. Garlic, do you want to talk about some of your free agent ads? I don't know if I had enough notebook paper to write them all down.
Yeah, I've added some people. I've dropped some people. No one's really impressed me. I mean, none of my ads I think were amazing. When I was doing my roster cut, I accidentally dropped Dante Moncrief. I was happy to get him back though. No one else bid on him, I think. So other than that, I added Eli Manning and AJ McCarron just for some QB depth, just in case AJ McCarron went down today or yesterday or something like that. So that doesn't really do me any good. So yeah, I mean, none of my ads excited me, obviously. But Josh, unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about free agent wise, I'd like to call an audible here at the end of the podcast and do something that might be fun, might end really poorly, but I think it'd be really cool to call people during the podcast. So I'm going to try calling Bradley, and we're going to see how this goes. For anyone who doesn't know, Bradley is our friend. He's from Hidden Oaks. He's kind of a gangly fuck. So we'll see how this works out.
Kind of a gangly fuck.
No, no doubt, a gangly fuck. I told him to answer if he gets a call.
He's probably stoned.
Oh yeah, he's masturbating right now. Ooh.
Hello?
Bradley, can you hear me, sir?
I can.
Ooh, all right. Josh is also here. Say hi, Josh.
Hey, Brad.
How are you doing this fine evening, sir?
Doing just fine.
Nice. So we're doing the podcast right now, like I was telling you about earlier at lunch. And, we don't really have a plan for what you're going to say, but let's just talk Vikings football. Let's hear any hot takes you might have. I'm sure we'll try and call you multiple times throughout the season, but let's just see what you have to say about the Vikes this year.
Any hot takes? Well, for anybody that has a radio out there, the hot topic's been the offensive line so far this preseason, with a few key injuries.
Yeah,
few guys
the
sitting
Vikings
out.
are terrible.
Get out of here, Josh, with that soundboard. Sorry, Brad, continue. That was a little
And,
Carl Gerbschmidt for you.
I mean, looking pretty stacked again this year on defense. Locked up a lot of key components. Anthony Barr's really the only question mark on returning after this season.
Mm-hmm. Do you want him to return? Do you care
offense,
about Anthony Barr's future?
I would say so. Not the highest tackle ratio guy on the team, but makes a lot of splashy plays. High energy. I think he's a threat off the edge.
No doubt.
Now, Brad, quick question for you. When you and Garlic met for lunch today, did he give notes to talk about?
No.
No?
Did he give me notes? No.
Absolutely not, Brad. Josh, how dare you? I did not give him any notes.
So then what did PA talk about this today?
PA? Why?
I don't know if PA broadcasted. Oh, I told you that on the radio. No, dude, but that's, like I said, anyone that's got a radio has been listening to it for the last 2 months on the fan.
Dude, that purple Kool-Aid is real in Minnesota, especially going into this year. Brad, how do you feel about Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins, little higher on him than I was previously. Still not ready to hand him the key in the Lombardi Trophy entirely yet. But
Sure.
But obviously he's got two pretty big threats with Thielen and Diggs. Kyle Rudolph coming in as a tight end, and hopefully we'll see another step for Laquan Treadwell this season. Third season now, and yet to get a touchdown.
Another step, yeah.
So,
God, he might catch what he had. He had like 20 catches last year or something like that for 200 yards, and his first season was one catch. Yeah, he had 200 yards last year.
No.
Yeah, Google it
something
right
like
now.
that. Yeah,
Google
like
it.
24, 25.
Google it, Josh.
I'm not Googling it.
Yeah, okay, well, you're wrong. But so, Brad, we like to be an equal opportunity podcast here, and obviously Josh is a hardcore Packers fan. Any hot takes on the Packers this year?
I don't know about hot takes.
All right,
Aaron
predicted
Rodgers
record. How do you feel about him?
his receivers. That's I don't know, to be expected. Pretty passionate guy, pretty good guy. So, looking like they had a pretty key injury to a linebacker, I believe it was.
Was it
Jake
right out
Ryan?
the gate, so that's tough.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? Who do you think will take the North this year, Brad? Obviously, our options are the Vikings, who are the most probable, the Packers, or you can throw in a curveball and say Lions or Bears if you want. But who's taking the North this year?
I think it's going to come down to the last 2 weeks. I mean, I guess I really haven't looked at the schedule. When's the second time they play each other? Week 15, 14?
I'm not sure, Josh. I know the Vikings end the year playing Chicago. Week 17, we play Chicago at home. Josh, are you more familiar with the Packers-Vikings schedule than I am?
I am not. I know they play week 2. Really all I know.
All right. So, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
usually the divisions always come down to the last few weeks. But so what are you thinking, Brad? Who takes it?
Who takes it? I got to give the edge to the Vikings. I mean, defending division champs. A lot of key components coming back on the defense that basically won us the division last year. Not to discredit Case Keenum's stellar play down the stretch, but this team's really predicated on that defense that Mike Zimmer team.
No doubt. Josh, is there something you want to say here? Brad, you couldn't see it, but Josh making a very funny face. Anything you want to say, Josh?
No, I mean, I would be shocked if the Vikings didn't have the same success that they did last year, I guess.
Well, 13-3. I think there's no chance we do that well this year. But
I mean, injuries are one of those things that you can't really predict, and so if everyone were to stay healthy, I would say it would be a lot closer than it was last year, and last year even would be difficult for for Vikings to make it as far as they were, just because Packers have Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, and I don't care that Tom Brady is still in the NFL. Tom Brady has the most success, but Aaron Rodgers is the better player. And so I would say that for this year at least, Vikings taking the division wouldn't be unexpected, but I also wouldn't say that the Packers are out of the chase either.
No doubt. I think a lot of people noticed last year that the Packers, I think the term used is like a house of cards a lot. Yeah, please don't touch the mic or the screen. But so, what are you pointing at? Yeah, we're at an hour. I know. It's okay. So, yeah. So the Packers couldn't really perform without Rodgers. So as long as Rodgers stays healthy, I think in the race for a Super Bowl for sure. But you brought up one more thing. We kind of want to wrap up here, Brad, but I'm interested in your opinion. Josh just said Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in the league, or at least the most talented. And I think I'd take the same stance, at least from a talent perspective. Aaron Rodgers is undoubtedly great. I think it's it's very similar to the Jerry Rice, Randy Moss debate, where Jerry Rice has got all the stats. He's got the rings. He's very similar to Tom Brady, who would be considered the quarterback GOAT, whereas Aaron Rodgers / Randy Moss, the more talented guys, and maybe with a better supporting cast, they'd have more rings or more accolades or whatever. Who would you have to? Who do you think is the GOAT, and who would you rather have on your team between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, Brad?
At this point in time, I mean, Tom Brady's on the better side of 40 now. We're going to be taking a close look at his season, see how far he drops off. Obviously, AFC champions can never count out the Pats, but as far as talent goes, driving me down the field in the fourth quarter, Rodgers is known to make some pretty spectacular plays, great athleticism, great elusiveness. I'd be a fool to think otherwise than Rodgers is the greatest quarterback right now.
Sure. At least from a talent perspective, I agree. It's hard to argue with Brady's 5 rings. But so we do want to wrap up here with you, Brad, but I want to ask you and Josh just a really quick question. Just give me a one-word answer. It's just a one or the other. Who makes the Patriots? I'll ask Josh first. Who makes the Patriots? Is it Brady or is it Belichick? Who's the more important piece? Josh.
Wow.
Just one, no explanation, just one or the other.
Billy B.
Billy Belichick? All right. Brad, same question to you. One word answer, no explanation. Who makes the Patriots better, Belichick or Brady?
I got to say Brady.
Ooh, all right. Maybe sometime down the road we can get an explanation. If anyone's curious what my answer would be, I'd have to say Belichick, just because the guy's a beast. But Brad, we're going to cut you off here because we want to wrap up. We've already gone over an hour, but I'd like to thank you for joining us, and I'm sure we'll have you on the show again.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for having me.
Love you, Brad.
All right. Bye-bye, buddy.
Bye.
All right, so that was cool. I'm actually happy that worked. Hopefully that turns out well in the Skype and in the playback for the podcast listeners. Josh, do you have any final thoughts here for the podcast?
No, I guess first one out and done. First one's always the toughest, and so maybe we'll be back for more. And if you've listened, thanks for putting up with us for an hour. Hopefully we'll be a little bit more prepared. My notes are, I guess I have grease stains on my notes because we were cooking ribs as I was taking the notes, so I was a little distracted.
Yeah, dude, those ribs were good though. Shout out to the Amazon Treasure Truck, our sponsor this evening. Those ribs were delicious.
Unofficial sponsor, by the way. That was just free pub for them.
Oh yeah, you're welcome, Amazon. This podcast is gonna go big. Amazon needs our press right now. They're probably strapped for cash, and they're really struggling. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Our format is probably going to be a little different going forward. Once we get into the swing of the NFL season, and maybe even preseason week 3, week 4, we'll have a more traditional show. We're kind of talk about that week in sports. We'll try and talk about the whole league instead of just focusing on the NFC North and the Vikings and the Pack. We'll try and talk about the other teams just a little bit, at least, to give a little snapshot of them. And we'll, of course, talk all our fantasy teams as those teams start to get drafted and then start getting players. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say, Josh, unless you want to give a little sign-off note. Or
yeah, sign off. A little bit more structure in the upcoming podcast. Obviously, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email them to hiddenokesoverdose@gmail.com. If they're mean, I will cry. Other than that,
will you cry on the air?
Thank you.
Can we get that?
Yes, I will cry on the air. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, I assume some of our listeners will be Derek, Willie, Hammer, and I have no idea who else would fucking listen to this.
Potentially Jordan Walmau, Alex Williams, Ryan Walters, and yes, they will be the ones that send that mean email that makes me cry.
Perfect. We should probably give a quick shout out to Alex Williams and is it Walters, right? Walters who's on it. They started doing a podcast just last year, and just last year. So I think they get a big credit in kind of what inspired us to this as well. At least I would assume so. How do you feel, Josh?
Yes.
All right. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope you listen again. Any feedback, good, bad, whatever, we'd love to hear it. hiddenokesoverdose@gmail.com. I'll probably make a Facebook page here at some point. So yeah, I think that's all we got, guys. Thank you for joining us. I've got a nice little song here that'll play us off. How do we feel, Josh? A little bit different for us, because